Hi and welcome. We're PilkingtonProps, a small company that does big builds. Today we're going to show you our latest creation, our eagle puppet with a 5-meter wingspan. Inspired by Icelandic mythology and our national crest, as we put there. Tune in and follow along as we show you the process of bringing this build to life. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you like this kind of content.
We start inside ZBrush, which is a program that allows you to sculpt digitally super quickly. I use this for the concept sculpting, where I'm just trying to play with the shapes and build up some forms in a visually pleasing way. Then, using the concept sculpt as a base, we model in the wooden frame, EVA parts and printables. After that, I use another bit of software which allows me to create the compound curve. First, we bring our model into a slicer software. We choose Prusa Slicer, but it's arbitrary. Smack it into the printer and wait a whole bunch of hours. It's always satisfying when it's done.
Whee!
After that, snap all the supports off, and then follows a lot of sanding. So, we've got one half of the beak, the lower beak, printed and sanded, and it's looking beautiful. This structure will have a cylinder going through there, and it will pivot for a mouth opening close action. The top half of the beak, printed okay, but there seems to have been one layer shift. It's like an 8-hour print. So instead of reprinting, what I'm going to do is take the delaminated part, I'm going to peel it open and glue it in its correct form, because the rest of the print worked just fine. So let's get stuck into it.
Nice.
As previously mentioned, the beak is printed in 4 parts and then sanded, glued together, and I made sure to have a cylinder going through the center so that the beak would articulate. After that, there's more sanding of the EVA foam head, just to make sure that the fit is nice and snug. EVA foam is a really fun material because after it's been put together, you can actually heat it and form it a little bit to the shape that you want it. Right, so I'm going to glue together these 2 bits using a combination of super glue for strength and hot glue for flexibility. So my plan is, what is my plan? What we're doing here is that we've got a projector mounted to the ceiling that casts downwards on the table, and we're currently calibrating the size. So what I'm going to do is bring a cube in and make sure that it is 10 centimeters in every direction. What we're doing is just double checking the measurements, which we can then trace onto our pattern pieces. How are we doing on size?
This is slightly too big.
plan originally was to have this joint for the neck be made out of fiberglass rods, but it turns out Iceland does not have fiberglass rods whatsoever anywhere in the country. So this is the solution Tom came up with, is just a hinging joint which will sit here and then wiggle through the neck. Aside from that, I've done some sweet joinery. We have the head mounted. I'm going to do a test of pulling this wire through and get the pulley up and running, and hopefully we should get the mouth opening and closing using the trigger at the other end of the whole mechanism. Fingers crossed that this goes well. I swear this is part of the process, but at the moment we've got the head swivel side to side. That's working quite well. And if I pull the trigger on the brake, I open the mouth, but the elastic isn't strong enough yet. So I've got a thicker piece and I'm going to try and bulk out that joint a little bit. Boop, boop. Cool, super glue. Okay, close enough for now. Give it a go. Yeah! Does the mouth do anything? I think it's not tight enough, but oh, a little bit. We'll have to tighten that, but it's not far off. Yesterday, Tom fashioned a stand to mount the bird, and we did a full test for the first time, and it's super exciting to see everything move together. But we saw, from having done this, we saw some problems that we want to tackle. It's very front heavy, so I'm going to design a new clip to 3D print, and I'm going to clip it right between the wings here to find a better middle ground. Just in case you're wondering what I'm doing, then the quick answer is, I have no idea. The long answer is, I'm trying to figure out how to get this bicycle wire, wrap around there, thread through this, and pull tight on this bicycle handle such that there is little enough slop in the system for this to open. Turns out, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm sure we'll figure it out eventually. What am I doing? Yes! As I mentioned in the last few clips, then this gear mechanism isn't quite doing it for me, so I'm switching plans. Instead, I've printed a separate handle / gear for this, where the end of this will be tagged into the handle here, and so this is the actuation distance. I'm sure there's some way of making this more elegant, but I'll figure that one out later. You ready? Action! Side, 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 side. Ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha! I understand. I looked at it and I was like I know that Ow! Sorry. Out. Down. In. Up. Out. Down. Just like when building up the wood structure, we use the projector from above to cast the pattern pieces down onto the EVA foam. This just cuts out for us a couple of extra steps of printing out the pieces, cutting them and assembling them to size, and then tracing them onto the piece. since we're not necessarily working with hugely precise pieces. The shop gets so messy during this process. After all the pieces are cut out, we can get to sticking them together. We use a combination of all sorts of glues, but the strongest and longest last in our case is contact cement. Over here it's called Jötungrip, but I hear across the pond they refer to it as barge contact cement. Similar to the EVA foam, it actually responds quite nicely to heat, and in the contact cement's case, it reactivates it if it's sat for just a little bit too long. So the heat can actually help create a stronger adhesion. We found a problem. When I printed out parts, we discovered that the head was like a centimetre off as a huge as the total scale thing, but that obviously then means that this whole thing is even more off, and the neck is all off and that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I've really properly calibrated the projector now, and I'm going to rebuild all these parts. That will be the task for today, and yeah, we're going to get this problem fixed as soon as possible. There. Okay, we're going to do a simulated wind test with the air compressor. I've glued 2 feathers on as I have intended, and hopefully they don't blow off. That has to be good enough. We're going to do the first pass of paint on the eagle's body now. Using a similar technique to the feet, then we've got a dark brown underlayer, and then we'll work more colours on top. The beak will be nice and yellow, like the feet. The inside will be black. So, we'll see how that comes out. After constructing the body out of EVA foam and the wooden base, then we moved on to build up some shape and style on the eagle. To do this, we laser cut 5,000 feathers, which were then all hand glued in strips or piece by piece, creating this feathered look that you see in the final outcome. Using the feathers that we previously cut on the laser, we assembled each feather, for the wing especially, individually by hand, adding a dowel going down the center of it to create a little bit of rigidity throughout the form, so that the wings wouldn't just go floppy as soon as we had these oversized feathers. And each feather had to be painstakingly hand-stitched together, which was a lot of time and a lot of work. The build for the wings has to have been the individually trickiest part for this whole build, because we very specifically wanted a full set of articulating wings, which would allow for a very realistic set of moves that the eagle could make. For these, we chose to use a plywood base to create the understructure, and then attaching the feathers that were made previously via 3D printed jigs that allowed each individual feather to pivot along its own axis. By allowing the feathers to pivot naturally, then we could avoid the problem of the feathers collapsing correctly on themselves.
Punch stop!
That's pretty cool. What we're doing here is I've taken off the attachment points for the tail, and currently I'm sticking them all down and cutting the ends to length so that they all sit and smush together like that. After that, I'll pop this in here. I'll do a little more tinkering on the shape of the feathers, and hopefully we'll be happy with that and not have to make any changes. So this is the plan for the legs here. We've got these pieces. There's a dowel that will pass through the little drilled hole over there. Then these pieces will match up like so, and here we'll just have some kind of ribbon to hold it in place and allow for the pivot through this joint. And on the front side here we'll put some elastic so it holds it in shape, and it will then allow for some natural bounce of the legs as they move on the bird. Bang! One of those once in a lifetime days in Iceland to take our pieces outside and do the spray painting outdoors. Hopefully I'm able to fully do all the spray painting today and yeah, not get the fumes inside. So we've just come inside from painting outdoors, and there's some things that we love, some things that we hate. This colour, especially when I don't fully paint it all the way, looks fantastic as the legs. However, I'm feeling that the brown colour that I use as the base is just a little bit too dark. I think it would benefit from being more chocolatey and vivid. So I'm gonna go out and get a new sort of brown base coat. I think it's worth it. This kind of process tends to be so therapeutic and calming for me. I'm sure it is for everyone, but I love it. got our puppeteers involved very early on to make sure that everything was moving how we wanted and that they were comfortable with the weight and control.
And that's a wrap on our eagle. We hope you had as much fun watching as we did building. Like and subscribe for more big builds content in the future. We want to express our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us on this adventure. Your support and encouragement means the absolute world to us. So thank you very much. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you have any suggestions for future creations? Let us know in the comment section down below. We love to hear from our amazing community. Big thanks to everyone who helped us design, build, and perform these puppets, because this was a huge undertaking. And a special thanks to the City Council of Reykjavik who sponsored this build. If you like this video and you're interested in more of this content, then we've got some links here and here to more of our stuff. So we'll see you in the future, and thanks for watching. Toodles!